Hello, I'm Miss Kmbris, and today we are going to be doing a still life painting. A still life is a drawing or a sketch or a painting in which the items are stationary. It's not like my cat trying to run away while I'm trying to draw her. These are items from around our house that will stay in place, and so let's get started. Here's an example of a still life that I sketched and painted with watercolor. I had this toy bus, a little stuffed mouse, and a ceramic chick and hen, and I drew them on some watercolor paper and then painted them. For this project, you're going to need your watercolors or some paints, a pen, a paintbrush, a washcloth or a paper towel, and then some paint water. For my background, I'm going to be using my sketch pad today, and for my items, I chose to get a flower from my yard and this little glass with some water in it and a little stone. And I'm going to place them kind of near each other in a composition where this object is in front of this one, so it's covering some of the jar, because I want to practice that perspective. Here you can see that the flower covers up some of the jar. You don't see the whole rim because it hides behind the flower. So we're going to practice what items are in front of other items when we draw. So set up your composition and we'll get started. Once you have your composition set, then I often will start with the item that is in the front. In this case, it would be the stone or the flower. I'm going to make mine approximately this size on my paper. And so I'm going to start with the heart. As I draw, I keep track of where the edges are, and maybe I can see the underlying edges. The jar starts about halfway up the heart and makes its way like this, and I can see only a portion of the jar. So as you are making your composition, you want to be aware of what things are in front of others. So go ahead and sketch them. Notice that this doesn't look exactly like the original. I'm just doing the best that I can. And I follow the flower around, looking at each petal and the shape that it is, where it is in relationship to these other items. There's another petal that is back behind this one. So I don't see this whole petal, I just see these two edges, and this one is kind of snuck in behind. So be aware of that and keep trying. Just practice. The more that you do this, and as we look at these objects closely, we examine them and work our way around, all the way around, and sketch those different pieces. Okay, I see some textural centers on this flower, and I have the word smile on here as well. So go ahead and sketch your items, and then we will add the color. Now that I've completed my sketch of my sunflower, my heart stone, and the jar, I went ahead and got my brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of water, a couple of drips in each of my watercolor palette paints. And when I'm painting with watercolor, I use some type of a palette where I can mix the other colors. So I also add some water over in the tray on this side. You can see that I take the concentrated paint and put it in here so that it's more watered down. And that's how that watercolor works. And so I drip a little bit in each one of these, just scooping up a drop or two for each one. And this is where I can also blend my colors. For instance, red in here, and then rinse my brush with a little bit of yellow makes orange. And I always rinse my brush in between uses of the paint. So this orange, I can use the orange that's pre-mixed, but I can always mix my own using those two colors, the red and the yellow. In order to make green, you can use yellow and blue to make green. And so you can see in here that this green is a little bit different than the pre-mixed one. This one has a little bit more blue in it, and so it's more of a turquoise or there we go, a little bit more of a blue-green shade. So I have some options for making the leaf. So for instance, I can lay that darker green in on the stem. Now you can see in my painting that because of the water and the image of the water, the stem actually looks like it's not aligned, but that is what it looks like in reality, where that's the way it works in the way that the water we see into the water. For the flower then, this is kind of a yellow flower, but there is a little bit of an orange on some of these edges. So I could put in some of the orange. And then I can come back with the yellow and fill in some of those areas. If you have something that's really white in your painting, the one thing with watercolor is you have to save it and not paint over it, because you can't take the color away. So on mine, I might concentrate on that a little bit in the parts of the jar that are really shiny, and I could try to leave those white. Here's a good example. On the Smile Rock, I can see a little bit of a space right here where there is a shine from the light source. So I will just paint the rest of it red, but I'm going to leave that section right here where the shine is white. So if you have some places that you can see the shine of the light on it, go ahead and leave those white and paint around them. Now I've got a little bit of brown. I might even add a little bit of black to it to make it a little bit darker for the center of my flower. Add a few drops of that in there. And I can let this dry and add some additional layers to it of paint, make it a little bit more vibrant after it dries, and do a second layer. For the shadows, you can see underneath here that there's a little bit of shadow, so I might use a light gray or maybe a little bit of a blue in that to make the shadow. And so I can go around underneath the items, and so look for the shadow in your composition. Where is the light casting a shadow on yours? Can you see the shadow underneath mine? And over here there's a little bit of a shadow where the flower is on this side, and right around the base of the jar as well. I see a little bit in there. So add some color to your painting, to your still life. And if you want to sign it, you can, as the artist, you can sign it with a pen or your paint, and find some other objects around your house to practice doing another still life. Very fun. Thanks for joining me today for this still life sketch and watercolor. I had a great time painting the sunflower from my yard. So keep looking around your house for items that you might want to sketch and watercolor, and keep up the good practice. Have a great day. Thanks.